are WNST, AM 1570, Taos of Baltimore. We are Baltimore Positive. We are positively into the holiday season. We are doing not one, but 6 Maryland Crab Cake Tour stops till times get better and the football gets better around here. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. I'll have Ravens scratch-offs to give away. We'll also have some candy cane scented tickets. I haven't picked those up yet. Whole office is going to smell like a candy can. But if you feel like Santa Claus at East Point Mall with the Penguins, this guy's been my friend for 3 decades. He did the show back in the spring and into the summer. I think we had a week where we were talking about Pittsburgh and Baltimore and baseball and All-Star guy. I don't know what it was, but he has put together an homage to the great game, the summer game. So I want to make this a little bit of a holiday segment here, not just talk Ravens and Steelers. Robby Incmikoski has been my pal. He is a Philadelphian who's made his way to Pittsburgh via Minnesota. And one time, if you recognize this chipper young lad, one time blast indoor arena. It wasn't even Royal Farms Arena yet then, right? Was First Mariner Arena then?
It was First Mariner Arena. Yep.
All right. And Bowie Bay Sox, as I found out too, right? You ran around
Two
Bay Sox
years. Yep.
games?
2002 and 2003.
And now you're not in semi-retirement. You feel like my pal Tim Wendell. He's the writer in residence at Hopkins. He was down in Antarctica last week too. It's crazy, but I feel like you're the reporter in residence in Pittsburgh, right? Is that you at this point? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique situation. I just took time off to write my book, and then I'm going to get a job at some point here. But you know how media changes, Ness.
I haven't had a job in like 35 years, man. It's crazy how this works,
Yeah, I
right?
just took about a year and a half off, to be honest with you, which is kind of crazy. Nothing I ever thought I'd be doing in my life. But here I am, and I don't know. I spent 16 years as a TV reporter in Major League Baseball, and you get to meet a lot of people over that time and tell a lot of stories. And as you know, I think as a lot of fans know well as well, that there are so many stories behind the story. And you see these reporters, that work on the field, and they capture all these stories. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is that um, a lot of stuff dies on the vine, whether you prepare for it and don't tell it, or whether you tell it and people forget about it. It's kind of cool to put a lot of these TV hits that we call that we do on TV to put them in book form, and that's what we came up with. And we tell a lot of good stories, a lot of stories behind the story.
Now, but it's about ballparks, right? Like
Yeah,
at heart, and
it's a
um,
photo book. Yeah, I guess I should explain that a little better, Ness. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that.
well, I
It's a
think of
coffee.
them as cathedrals of the game. There's a reason I went to 30 ballparks in 30. It's called Sacred Grounds. Hold that up
Yep.
for me, bro.
Yep. So that's it right here. So it is called Sacred Grounds, and it's a coffee table book. It's a photo book with pictures from all 30 ballparks. And I'm going to pull up the Baltimore chapter for you here in a second. So pardon me for looking away while I talk. I'm just making sure I get to the right page here for you, Ness.
I know what
But
Camden Yards looks like, but I don't know what picture you used. How about
so
that?
I don't think there is a bad picture at Camden Yards, to be honest with you, because it's I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and that's just my personal opinion. Pittsburgh and Baltimore are the two most beautiful ballparks in Major League Baseball. So it's it's kind of a cool place. Like for people that haven't been there, the experience at Camden Yards is an amazing one for a lot of reasons. And if you really love the game of baseball, number one, you can see how the ballpark has stood the test of time. And the lady that helped design Camden Yards, not the architect, but the designer, like put the warehouse where the warehouse is, and just kind of the way, the ideas with the brass plaques where each of the home run balls have landed. Her name is Janet Marie Smith. She currently works for the LA Dodgers now, but she lives in Baltimore full time. Um, and
One of my favorite people, incidentally.
she's amazing, right? She's amazing.
She considers me one of her favorites, which makes it even better.
There are so few people, Ness. There are so few people that realize the impact she has had on the game of baseball. And what I mean by that is she helped
She should be in the
redesign.
Hall of Fame. I mean, there's no doubt
I,
about she should be in
I
the Hall of
think
Fame.
at some point in time, recognition would have to come our way.
You know,
I want to say
Angelos was so petty that she's not in the Oriole Hall of Fame. She designed Camden Yards, and the only way she
which is
gets
crazy.
her props is when people like you and I talk about it.
Which is crazy because the way she has impacted the baseball experience, and nobody knows who she is. And I'm not saying nobody is like nobody. I'm talking about fans, mainstream media. I can't believe that her impact isn't celebrated more throughout the game of baseball than it is. And what I
She
mean by
might be
that
the
is,
most impactful woman of our lifetime in the game. In the game,
I mean, I
I'd
would
have to
have to look at
really think
others.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you'd have to think about. And that's not taking anything away from Janet, obviously. But it's like people talk about Camden Yards, right? That place is about for what, 34, what's this, could be 35th or 36th year, I think, of Camden Yards.
It'll be
When you look at,
35 because it's 92 at Open. Yeah.
yeah, 90,
So
yeah,
34.
90, April, was it April, whatever it was, 92, April 6, 92,
Right.
when it opened. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But, um, and Rick Sutcliffe started the first ever game at Camden Yards. But what's crazy about that is like, that place has stood the test of time over the decades, right? That was outside of Toronto. Baltimore was the first like new ballpark to come in, and it's gorgeous. You look at the way it's designed. You walk in, you got to look down to see the field. You got the hangout in right field where the flagpoles are, the warehouse behind your Boog's Barbecue, crab cakes, all kinds of delicious food in that place. But then you look at the little nuances of the place. You look at the sides of the rows, like in the old school Baltimore baseball figure that's there. You look at the um, ushers; they're wearing like old school shirts, like you see them wear orange shirts one night, then you see them wear other color shirts, that kind of thing. Um,
All
you,
that was
you
such an
just
awakening on opening day of 92 too, because it was throwback to the 50s, really in the 40s and the 30s, polo grounds, all of that kind of stuff, that when you walked in, and I was a 24-year-old walking in there after Memorial Stadium, after coming up to Philly and seeing the vet and fake grass and the circular stadiums and the ashtrays and the toilet bowls and all that stuff,
all that. Yep,
like the design of stadia has stood the test of time over 30 years in baseball, where we don't talk about football stadiums. Maybe
ever.
Lambeau, but Lambeau's not even. Lambeau was the erector set that I saw 30 years ago. Lambeau's now just a giant mall.
Right.
That's been fortified in the middle of nowhere. At the end of a river in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. So these cathedrals of the game, for me, the fact that Fenway Park and Wrigley Field are still standing, and they found a way to make that happen. And I was actually Janet Marie's guest at my favorite ballpark, and I don't say this to patronize Janet Marie; she knows. I went to Dodger Stadium back in September. For a Giants game, believe it or not. It was a night that Kershaw announced his retirement, so it was like a big thing. Well, it was a
Right.
giveaway. It was a beautiful night. I mean, it's Chavez Ravine. And what she's done to that place, which is talk about Camden Yards being 35. That place was built in the late 50s, right? It was built without water fountains. It built into a ravine. And I defy you to go to Dodger Stadium and feel like you're not someplace really special. Like from
It's
the
a
minute you walk in there. So her specialty is building special places. And I think Pittsburgh's that way. I think they all outside of Tampa where the roof blew off, even in Miami where they build an ill-fated mall in Little
Coral
Havana. I
Gables.
mean,
Yep.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
little,
places,
yeah, little
but
Havana.
they've
Yeah.
tried. I mean, in San Diego, the thing about Camden Yards is it's begat cookie cutter knockoff clones, of which Pittsburgh kind of is one, of which the original Rangers and San Diego, they all have elements of Camden Yards. They've all borrowed Safeco, Denver a lot. I mean, but most of those places are like little Camden Yards to some degree. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, I would think so. And then, but when you look at the design, the original point though, and you're right, that could be used as the model for the quote unquote new ballpark. When I say new, 35 years. But when you look at that place and see just how it stood the test of time, that's probably the most impressive thing about Camden Yards. And when you look at why that is, Janet Marie Smith is the reason. She worked with the redesign of PNC Park where they pulled sections out of the outfield and added two bars. And they are the two hottest spots where everybody hangs out at PNC Park. You look at Fenway Park, you cannot move the footprint of Fenway Park. It's impossible to do. So Janet helped with the redesign, helped create more space as much as she possibly could in that ballpark, Wrigley Field, Dodger Stadium, all the other many places, Petco Park she's consulted with. there's so many
She's built
places
minor
where
league ballparks too, including up in
oh,
Worcester. I
endless
mean,
minor league ballpark.
Sarasota. If for our
Endless.
fans, for anybody that's been to Sarasota, she did not build Ed Smith Stadium. She came in and all of the niceties, all of the throwback
That's
parts,
exactly
even the
right. Yep.
freaking trash cans in Sarasota, and the foyers and the entryways and the palm trees and the courtyard out in left field and the
Yep.
picnic. I mean, I've been to Sarasota. I go every year, and it's so Janet Marie and when I'm there now, and this is the pick on the Orioles a little bit, and I don't mind doing that because that's what I do, but it's fallen a little bit into disrepair in a way in Sarasota where it was so bright and shiny, and she's been working for the Dodgers for a dozen years, 15 years now, whatever it's been, and that Sarasota needs some TLC because it was built so nice and so Disney World that the upkeep part of just the paint and just all of it, new ownership. I'll give the Rubenstein group a little bit. They're trying to fix the baseball team, but it is amazing how that experience, when you walk into a stadium, you notice it, right? And
Yep.
and I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
about even when I'm in the old Oakland Coliseum and it's falling apart. There was a part where I went literally to go pee into the men's room, and I'm in Memorial Stadium again, like transformed. The smell, the way it was built, the underneath of the stands, just how stadiums and ballparks and your first experience, if you're a youngster coming to PNC Park, would be way different than have gone to Three Rivers. And for a Philly kid like you to go to the Vet versus go to Citizens Bank, there is something about selling the game that you feel, as I said, you feel like you're someplace special. When you come to Camden, when anybody comes to Camden Yards from out of town, they all brag about this is special play. I feel like I went somewhere.
Mhm. Oh God, it's gorgeous, and I don't ever see that changing. So how about this? So the shot
Oh, I want to see the
here,
shot. Go ahead.
so we just took a scenic shot. So I don't know how well you can see that. So you get a scenic shot of every ballpark that
That's right from Chris
uh
Pica's season ticket. That's where Pica sits. About 5, 8 rows up in the upper deck right behind home plate. That's his ticket right there.
it's amazing, man. Yeah, yeah. So I just tried to take the most scenic photo I could, if possible.
And you
You
took
know,
these pictures when you were just out. These are culled
yeah, when
from
I was
your
working,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I took every picture in the book with the exception of a few, and we credited, those photos, certain photos that are going to make sense that clearly I did not take when you read the story. And we just grabbed a bunch of anecdotes from each place. So, everybody's heard from Cal about, playing game 21, 31 in a row. But we spoke to Jeff Houston, who was a longtime utility infielder. And he explained what it was like playing third base next to Cal on the night he broke the record. So we have a firsthand account of that. So it's just a lot of stuff. Like you talk about the stories behind the story around baseball. Who's heard from the guy next to him? We always heard about Barry Bonds setting Major League Baseball's home run record back in August of 2007. We interviewed the guy who gave up that homer. What was that night like from his perspective? We've heard Barry talk a ton about it, but not the guy who gave it up. I mean, yeah, he's talked about it before as well, but hasn't talked about it a ton. So, we just went into, the game behind the game. And like you, Ness, a ton of people around sports, and have a ton of stories to tell. And fans find that stuff interesting. And especially in this era of content, 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 that's all everybody wants. So, we tried to explore that a little bit and just told a bunch of stories, man. We talked about big moments that happen in each place or what the everyday ballpark experience is like. And, it worked out pretty good. And it's a nice Christmas gift for anybody that has a baseball fan in their life.
Robby Incmikoski got a new book out. He is up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Don't hold that against him because he's not really a Steeler fan. You're an Eagle guy, right? Probably, yeah.
Well, I grew up a ball boy and working in the training room for the Eagles. And then the new ownership group came in, which is still the same ownership group, Jeffrey Lurie, and he fired both of my mentors. So I kind of soured on him a little bit.
I got you. I
And
understand that.
yeah, I don't know. I'm real loyal to the people that helped, create opportunities for me. So I kind of soured on him a little bit, so I don't root for him anymore. And so now I root for the Steelers. I'm able to be a fan in the game of football now,
You
so I
got
enjoy
off the
that very
Eagles
much. So
bandwagon at the wrong time. As I was going to say, man, you did, I
in the
mean,
90s when they were, early 90s with Buddy Ryan and then mid 90s with Ray Rhodes and
All right, so
You
what's
know,
wrong with the Steelers? It's Steelers week here right now. What's wrong with the Steelers?
yeah, I don't know, man. Ness, it's a little bit of everything, and there's a lot of chatter. And here's what I'll say. I don't think, and I don't know if anybody saw Ben Roethlisberger's comments talking about how it might be good for both sides for a change to happen. Good for Mike and good for the Steelers to change a little. Ben made they're public comments. They're being talked about all over. I'm not breaking any news here by saying it, but for the first time, and this sounds crazy to say, this is the first time in 13 years of me living in Pittsburgh where I feel like there could be a chance that I could see this being the end of the tunnel for Mike, the end of the line for Mike with the Steelers. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying I could see something like that happening. Um,
Well, they don't have a quarterback, right? I mean,
right, and the fans, it's hard. It's just
yeah.
hard, as we know. You notice, Lamar Jackson quarterbacks the Ravens, and they're good every year because Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, right? Like, so I think you look at you know, they were booing during Renegade on Sunday against Buffalo. I don't know
I
how
know,
to like
man.
it's all over the place. I
I
have
got to
never
call into Tommy Shaw to see how he feels about
I
that
have
right now.
never heard that. And I've never seen I'm talking angry boos. And of course the fire Tomlin chants. That's always been a topic since the day I moved here 13 years ago. But you know what? Mike is really well liked. People like for people that want Mike gone, they're just frustrated that the team is not performing well. Mike has been a great representative for the city of Pittsburgh. He has won a Super Bowl. He has, and I know this is people get tired of talking about it, but the craziest thing with Mike Tomlin Ness is this. Everybody, most of the fans in Pittsburgh want him gone. Every media outlet nationwide would say that they're crazy for that to happen. And both things could be true. Look at what Andy Reid did in Philly, and then look at what he did in Kansas City, right? Like maybe that's the situation here. Who knows? Who knows? And Ben said, watch him go to Penn State and win a national championship. That would not surprise me either. And I don't know if Mike would put up all this recruiting craziness that NIL has become in college sports, but wherever Mike goes, he's going to win. That's not to be debated. He's a great coach. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He's a winning coach. But Aaron Rodgers, who just turned 42 yesterday, said essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they weren't as prepared as they could be for the game. And that's a stinging indictment when a four-time MVP at 42 years old is saying that in his first year with a franchise. You look at this defense, which I'd have to do the math, Ness. Football isn't my area of concentration, but it's either the highest paid defense or close to it. And they're just not getting what they invested in this defense. Now, all that said, I would not be surprised if the Steelers won in Baltimore on Sunday because they have a habit of giving Lamar Jackson fits, which they've done many, many times. I can't explain why because Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, and sometimes he comes and looks just average against the Steelers for whatever reason. So for me, man, I don't know what to make of this weekend. I could see Derrick Henry running for 250 yards on his own and 4 touchdowns. And I could also see Derrick Henry running for 57 yards and no touchdowns.
It's
I
because
mean,
you've seen the Ravens offensive line and you saw they played against the Bengals there. I mean, there's not a lot to recommend right
right,
now, right? I mean,
right, right.
this is
But like,
tough.
I
It's
could
tough
see it
sledding
going
for
either
both these
way.
franchises.
Right. I could see it going either way. And credit both guys. You look at John Harbaugh, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You look, or a quarterback, Super Bowl winning coach. I think Lamar Jackson could be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, no question about it. And you look at the level of success that both these coaches had, and it's amazing to see them continue for as long as they have.
Robby Incmikoski's got a book. We've talked a little football because he's in Pittsburgh, but he's really a Philly guy, but really a baseball guy. Has been a baseball guy for 2 decades, covering the Twins and covering the Pirates. Has made his home up in Pittsburgh, and the book's out now. So, as a guy that did 30 ballparks in 30 days, Geddy Lee once said to me years ago, any night at the ballpark's a great night, like at any
Yeah.
ballpark. I mean, he was a guy going on the road, like I'll watch a game anywhere. I went to 30 ballparks in 30 nights, 30 days for like a stunt 12 years ago. We did it for Bo Marrow, Red Tree, and for
I remember
Who's
it.
My Hero. And I had a thing about being in all of those ballparks every night and jetting around and all the things I had to do, planes, trains, and automobiles to get there, rain delays and all that kind of stuff that happened. But for me that they're all I I wouldn't say one's better than the other. I found things that I like about Tampa. Oakland was still in the league then. I found I love that old dump. I did. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
You
I
and me
went
both.
by it a couple weeks ago when I on the BART when I was out in the Bay Area. I took pictures of it because I had some good times there. Ravens won an AFC Championship game there. Palmer pitched against Catfish there. So like for me, I when I walk into those places, and I did long segments with Luke just about the history of the space, the theology of the spaces, and you've captured these images and these stories, and I want to make sure your book gets sold. What is that? Oh, that's Oakland. Look at
That's
that.
Oakland. Yep, yep.
Mount
And
Davis. Look at that in the outfield out there. What an atrocity.
crazy. So
Hey, so
look at
tell me where they can find the book. I want to make sure we get
so
sold.
I'm only selling it at my site RobbyInc.com. That's the only place people can buy it because I invested in the whole project and produced the whole book myself. I had the group called Ascender Book Services working with me. They're fantastic. Did a wonderful job with it. So it can only be purchased on my site, RobbyInc.com. But here's the craziest thing, I want to point out one thing before we go. You think about Oakland, right? The craziest thing was the tunnel, right? So this was the tunnel that fans walked down. So this is where players made their way to the field. And this is where the fans were making their way to their quote unquote expensive seats at Oakland. Now, that place had been neglected for the last probably handful of years, right? But look at this. There's a fan walking out. That's the visiting clubhouse right there. He's walking. There's a guy getting dressed on the other side of that wall for a game.
That's where
That's
Max
standing
Scherzer,
probably
yeah, is going in. Right. I got
10
you.
or 12 feet
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
is right inside that door. And this dumpy tunnel, and look at this, like, look at that, like, this
Crazy.
thing you can pick up with one hand, okay? And there's a paper sign that says fans, players. It's crazy.
Robby Ince is the way to find that. ROBBYINC. I'm going to send everybody out to do that. Dude, I love you, man. I mean, like we got to get together. You and me and Bert Blyleven. We'll go have pasta together or something
My
one
former
day.
broadcast partner, and that's
Oh.
the greatest place to eat, Little Italy. I don't know if I can mention specific restaurants, but I love eating in Little Italy, man. I love that place, and
All
you know
right.
which place
He's
is
a
my
Sabs
favorite.
guy. I'm an Amicis. That's fine.
I
I'll
love
meet
that,
you halfway.
but I
I'll
have
go to
nothing.
Chips
I
with you.
love
I'll go
Amici's
anywhere.
too. I've been to Amici's. I love Amici's, but Sabatino is my spot, man.
That's,
I love going there, and I love Amici. I
listen.
love Fawn Street. I love Little Italy and
You have
Baltimore. I
no
love it.
idea how many bookmakers I've had at Sabatino's, especially after 2 a.m. So trust me, dude.
I love it. I
I'm a
love that
Sabs
place.
guy too.
I love that
If
city,
it's
man.
local, I
Chester.
love it, except for a couple of crab cake joints that didn't pay me. I got to go. Robbie, I love you. We're Baltimore positive. Stay with us.